Today I want to share some thoughts with you about a technique we call flipping. And it really was popularized clear back in the 70s. A guy in California actually invented this technique, taught it to another guy by the name of D. Thomas, who brought it to the Midwest in fishing BASS, Bass Angler Sportsman Society tournaments, did extremely well with that technique, and it became very popular, and here it is 30 years later and we're still using it. The purpose of it is to be able to fish into heavy cover like this. You know, you can't do that when you cast because, obviously you can't get back into that thick stuff where the fish could very well be, particularly right now. It's 96 degrees right now, and they're looking for all the cover and shade they can get when they're in shallow water. Well, how do you get into that? Well, one technique is called flipping, and it takes really special equipment. It takes heavy line. I've got 17-pound line on here right now. It's just regular mono, but if I refilled it right now, I would probably put some fluorocarbon on it, but right now I've just got mono. The big deal is the rod. The rod is at least 7.5 foot up to 8 foot long. The distance, which is very unique about this kind of rod, the distance between your reel and the first eye is about 1.5 to 2 times the distance that's on most normal fishing rods. And there's a reason for that, and that's so that you can actually hold some line out and pull line out with your left hand. I got this white jig on. I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this so you can see the power of this technique we call flipping. What I want to do is I want to take enough line off that it comes down to about the handle of my rod. Then I want to reach up in front of the reel and I want to pull more line. As I do, you can see the lure came up a little bit, so I can let it drop some more and I can pull some more out, and I can hold as much line out here as I want or as I can comfortably do, right? So I've got it in my left hand. I'm going to hold it with my fingertips. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to swing this lure, and once I get it swinging about a foot off the water, I'm going to let it go into that brush pile. What happens is the entry is so low to the water, it doesn't make hardly any splash and it won't spook those fish. The second thing it'll do is it'll allow me to get right up into the thickest cover. So if those fish are holding way up into this cover, I can get this lure all the way up in there with this technique. Pretty simple, huh? And you say, can you really get this close to a fish and catch them? Absolutely. I've caught them many, many times right off the side of the boat doing this. Then you can work it up and over each of the limbs. Now, the way you fish this is that when this lure comes up to a limb that's, say, a limb that's underwater and it's laying there horizontally, and that lure comes up there, you want to pull it up to the limb and then let it go back down in the water. Pull it up to the limb, let it go back down into the water. Use this limb that's under the water as a fulcrum point to where you can work that lure in place and keep that lure right there in the strike zone and tease that fish. You don't just work it out and then flip it again. Look for underwater, and you'll feel them as you're working it. You'll feel those underwater sticks and logs. When you do that, just work that lure up and down like that, and using that stick as a fulcrum. Now I got that way back up in there. No chance in the world that I could cast it up in there, right? You say, well, how in the world would you get a fish out of there? Well, the answer is you got a 7.5 to 8 foot really strong fishing rod. You've got really strong line and a really good reel, and when that fish hits, when you jerk him, you just got to jerk, pull, reel all at the same time and keep that fish coming. If you let that fish get away from you, you're going to lose him even with this heavy tackle. So once you get that fish coming your direction, you just keep horsing him all the way out. I can't tell you how many times I've caught fish without even reeling, because I've only got generally 5 to 7 to 8 foot of line out. So when I set that hook, that fish I've got him coming. I'm going to come right on out of that brush pile with him, get him out here in open water so I can put him in the boat. Many, many times with this kind of equipment, you may jerk, set that hook, pull that fish up, and literally throw him right into the boat, believe it or not. So it's a tremendous technique because it allows you to get places where you otherwise would never be able to throw a lure. It allows you to work the lure very quietly keeping it in the strike zone, like right there. It's over a stick, about the size of my finger. So I'm going to make sure my reel is clicked. I'm going to pull it up, let it go back down. Pull it up, let it go back down. Using that stick as a fulcrum point to keep that lure in the strike zone. All you're going to do is you're going to go down a bank, or for that matter a creek channel, or any place where you have really heavy cover, and you're going to just dissect all of that cover, all that brush, all those trees, all those logs, whatever they are, and you're going to be able to dissect those one little stick at a time as you work your way down the bank. Incredible technique. Can't tell you how many thousands of fish that have been caught by me alone. You can imagine how many people throughout the last 30 some years, how many fish they've caught. So try this technique. Get you the right kind of rod, get strong line, get a reel. Doesn't have to be an expensive reel. This is not an expensive reel, because all you're really fishing is about 7 to 10 foot of line at any given time. Great technique. Hope that helps you. Thanks.